When you're going about your business,
Would you like a beer, mate?
Oh, no.
Bernard. Hi, George.
the last thing you want is people who aren't.
Fellas.
It's the same when you're flying on business, which is why TAA introduced business class, with a separate quiet zone, up to 4 inches more legroom than economy, and meals to first-class standard. On business, fly business class, exclusive to TAA.
The friendly way.
Me bet at the TAB? You betcha.
TAB, now that's the winning ticket.
1,400 metres.
Bet at home, just pick up the phone.
Darlings, absolutely everyone I know goes to the TAB.
SP? Not for me. I bet at the TAB.
Us take a chance? You bet we do. At the TAB.
The lucky shop? She's good value, mate. You betcha.
Is your lawn looking the worse for wear too? Well, here's how to give a patchy lawn a new lease of life. Oversow. Oversow is a specially formulated mix of lawn seed and slow-release fertiliser. Apply it to your old lawn and then you watch the transformation. Oversow turns thin and worn lawns into one that you can be proud of. Buy Oversow now at Kmart or your garden supplier. Oversow by Valley Seeds, the easy one-step lawn repair kit.
Melbourne becomes the focal point for 45 million viewers across Australia and around the world. The 1984 VFL Grand Final, Hawthorn versus Essendon. For the ultimate football achievement, the VFL Premiership. The 1984 Grand Final, 2 o'clock today, live and exclusive to 7.
Three-quarter time in the Channel 7 Reserves Grand Final for 1984 and a 21-point lead to Melbourne, 8-10-58, Carlton 5-7-37. And now for a final report on crowd conditions and everything else that Peter Donegan can see. Let's go up now to the 7 Sport helicopter.
Thanks once again, Graham, and pilot Tony Scolari and cameraman Steve Thompson and myself. This is the view that we have from above the MCG on Grand Final day. And pretty much the same report as we had earlier. No real problems with traffic, car parking spaces. Most of the car parks are almost full now and there aren't too many left. So if you are about to head off to the MCG, then I'd suggest you possibly might be able to park at a railway station somewhere near the ground and get the train. I'd say that'd be the best bet. Still a bit breezy up here and there will be a little bit of wind for the players to contend with in the big one. But no real traffic problems. The weather still looks okay. Possibility of a shower later in the afternoon, but let's keep our fingers crossed that that doesn't happen. We'll be back and join you just before the big game. In the meantime, back downstairs to Graham McNaney.
Well, thank you, Peter. One of the big events also in Grand Final week was at the Southern Cross Ballroom on Monday night, and of course I refer to the 1984 Brownlow Medal. I've had a lot of calls about a segment that was shown during that telecast, so here it is again, and it's Wind Beneath My Wings.
But I've got it all here in my heart. I want you to know I know the truth. I would be nothing without you. Did you ever know that you're my hero? And everything I'd like to be. I can fly higher than an eagle, but you are the wind beneath my wings. You are the wind beneath my wings.
Three-quarter time in the Channel 7 Reserves Grand Final for 1984, a 21-point lead to Melbourne. How do you see the last quarter, Don Scott and Peter McKenna?
Well, just before we get to the last quarter, that was absolutely magnificent.
It was too. And
she's not a bad singer, is she?
Well, great to hear Colleen Hewitt. She is tremendous talent. Now, there's Kenny Sheldon coming off the ground, won't take any further place, I think, but Colleen Hewitt, what a great singer. One-eyed Collingwood supporter as well. So don't tell me it's on again. There's Ellingworth shaping up to Andrew Graham. That seems to be the accepted thing at the start of every quarter.
This is completely wrong now. The game is over. I mean, not over.
And a
It's
report.
about time they started to concentrate and win the ball. It's all right to start off like that, fine, but now win the ball.
And Andrew Graham having his number taken, and I think that probably makes about 8 or 9 people,
and
players that have had their numbers taken today, and that's a wasted one, isn't it?
Most of them before the game has started.
Well, that's right,
but
that was a frivolous report, absolutely stupid. I mean, to even be involved in that, Graham should be off the ground because he's been involved in 2 of those undisciplined actions.
Well, back to as far as the game goes, you would have to think that Melbourne would win the game from here. But Carlton's goal just before three-quarter time by Warren Ralph will lift them a little, just put them a little bit within distance, 8-10 to 5-7. So that's a difference of only 3 goals, 3. So it is not an impossible task. And I saw Colin Kinnear take the Carlton players away from the trainers and the lot, Graham, and really ripped into them. So maybe we'll see a better performance by Carlton in this quarter.
Start of the last term, Melbourne by 21 points, 58 to 37. Howell in ruck for Carlton. Oh, that was one that was missed, and the Melbourne player copped one high in the centre of the ground. A lot of players in the middle of the field at the moment, and finally an umpire picks a free kick out.
Gee, Graham's copping one from Regalo, and Regalo's gone in to speak to Graham, and probably Regalo saw what Graham had done.
Actually, Melbourne and Carlton are not out of this. They're only really 3 kicks behind to draw level. So, in today's type of football, they could catch and do that quite easily.
It's very important they get the first 1 or 2 goals, Don. If Melbourne kick the first couple, then they'd be in big stride.
Withers kicks down towards half forward, taken there by Howell. He spots a teammate out on the centre wing position, 1 against 2. The Melbourne player pushing it towards the boundary line. And in fact, out it was O'Brien. And there'll be a throw-in in front of the Carlton reserves bench. So temper's still a little frayed in this game all day. And Kenny had it for a long time as the Melbourne members sing out holding the ball. And once again we'll have a ball up. 58 to 37, Melbourne by 21. Day gets the tap towards the boundary line, and this time we'll see a throw in.
There's a very light, misty rain falling at the moment here at the MCG. The clouds are very, very high, and they're light clouds, but it would be quite annoying to the players. Just make that ball a little bit slippery. There's Tanner being caught with the football. Tommy Alvin being shoved over the line there by Dale Dixon, and there he is, Tommy, with the long hair. The longest mop of hair in league football for sure, as we see the ball on centre wing. All Day cleverly taps it down. Maitland goes in against Brett Bailey. Bailey with a hand pass. Dixon goes in for Melbourne. You can see that ball just a little bit more slippery at the start of this quarter. There's Roger Ellingworth caught with the ball. Now it's Tommy Alvin ridden into the ground, and the umpire was onto that one, and Alvin from half-back flank will receive a 15-metre penalty as well. Now, this is the player that might be able to lift the Blues because he never gives up as he kicks it towards OJ. Up he goes in front. It's stumped away by Hughes, a very disciplined player. Rodney Wright ducks the head and cleverly gets away and goes for home. Down towards full forward. Brian Wilson from behind. Almost a magnificent mark, but here's a chance for Regalo with a hand pass over the top. Kicked away by Nixon. Back towards Thorne for Melbourne. Thorne caught with the football. Hand pass. Back there to Wilson. Wilson in the forward pocket. Can't pick up the football. It's close to the boundary line, and the umpire... This time it is umpire John Russo will come in and bounce the ball in front of the small scoreboard, which shows Melbourne leading 8-10 to Carlton 5-7.
Lucky the kick off the ground worked. It was just outside the goal square. You miss those, and there's a 6-pointer. A couple of players not willing to bend down and put the body over it. Here's Peter Thorne of Melbourne. Gives it to a teammate who puts it high towards centre half forward. Ellingworth in from behind, couldn't take the mark. Graham in front, could have been free kicked, and he'll get the free kick. Andrew Graham, I believe, has had his number taken at least once. And now Carlton move it up towards half forward. In front, knocked away from, I think it was Dean. No, it wasn't Dean. Finally, Auger cleared down towards the centre wing position again on the members' side. Good tackle. Could have been a free kick for in the back. Oh, tell you what, there's a little headhunting going on. Not much science in that attempt at a run through there from Auger, who gets a little word of advice too from the umpire as he goes past. And there's a mark missed by Scott Howell. Tanner on the left foot sees a handball to a player further afield. And I think it was Tossell into the forward pocket towards Brian Wilson. He's under pressure. He gets it. Will he look for a teammate or will he try and play? He's trying to play everybody, holding the ball.
Good decision.
Too long, Brian Wilson, and that was poor for a man with that experience. In fact, we're talking here about a Brownlow medalist, and just tried to do a little too much. And Southby will take the free kick for Carlton and go to the outer side.
Jeff Southby looking out there for Tommy Alvin, but chipping in is Dale Dixon. Dixon on the left foot down towards the half-forward line. Peter Thorne, beautifully done. He'll swing onto the right foot. He's a natural left footer down towards full forward, and that's a very good mark. It looked like Xavier Tanner. It is Xavier Tanner, in fact, ducking back, had his name written all over the Tommy Sharon football there, and he is marked from 25 metres out. Have a look at that as he just ducked back, read it to perfection, and this could really put the nail in the coffin of the Carlton side because he's only 25 metres out directly in front.
The runner out to Brian Wilson of Melbourne.
Yes, well, I think rightly so. Brian, he handballs a lot in the seniors, but he gets into seconds and he won't give it over. There's the kick by Xavier Tanner. I think he's just offline, or is he? No, it's just sneaked in for a goal.
What do you know when you're an officer in the Army Reserve? When you're miles from anywhere with just a map and a compass and 30 soldiers under your command. When you're an officer in the Army Reserve, you know you're in charge. Army Reserve officer training is part-time. Applications are now open. For details, call this number. Achieve something for yourself.
4-1, Roger, out.
Become an officer in the Army Reserve.
Nearly 6 minutes gone last term. 64 plays 37. Melbourne in front. Trying to take it out of the centre. Graham just hits it in the air. Knocked forward there by O'Brien, and forward again for Melbourne by Ellingworth. Oh, that handball was to a player under pressure, but now Ellingworth has it. Ellingworth long in towards the forward pocket. Wilson is down there, and also I think that's Holden that's come on for Melbourne, and it's through for a behind. And so 9-11-65 to Melbourne, 5-7-37 to Carlton.
That's the strength on the Melbourne side. Ray Holden was recruited from Western Australia this year, and they had hopes of him filling the full-back position for the senior side, and there he is, reserve.
Actually, he's an All-Australian, isn't he?
Was he an All-Australian? Well, he played with West Perth over there and was a very, very good... I think he did play state football with them at one stage, but he can't crack it. In fact, it reserved for the first seconds today. And there's the pass coming down on the left foot to Brian Wilson, who was marked only 30 metres out from goal on a 45-degree angle. A great camera shot of this one, right behind Brian. He's already kicked 3, as we said, after 10 in the previous game against the Carlton side. There's the kick, a beautiful looking kick, and 4 goals to Brian Wilson. And if ever a sealer was kicked, that's certainly one.
Yes, well, Carlton started off. You could notice the way that they went in. We see here on Batterson on television, and Wilson was just left unattended by Gagan. But Carlton have really been undisciplined. You could highlight instances early in the game. Honeybun really didn't commit himself in the first quarter. You know, they start off with aggression, Carlton. Then Nixon wouldn't put his body down in the goal square to pick the ball up, tried to kick it off. Then Gagan left Wilson unattended, and Carlton can only blame themselves.
10-11 Melbourne, Carlton 5-7. Full marks to Batterston too, because Batterston's been boring in all day doing the heavy work, and then you see a bit of class there on the left foot with that beautiful pass down there to Wilson.
Nearly 8 minutes gone into the last quarter. Still some slight rain, but it's very slight. It's bitterly cold though, or at least it is here.
I'll say it is.
And here's a big knock on in towards Melbourne's centre half forward area. Coming through nicely is Withers. Has all the time in the world onto the left foot. Drives down and towards. That'll be good if it's a goal. It's a great effort from behind. Wilson hands to it.
Still got it.
Still got it to Peter Thorne. He's in trouble. Short kick, still near the boundary line. And finally, is it out? No, in. Picked up by Regolo, snapped back. All Melbourne, and that's Tanner. So Melbourne with plenty of persistence down there, and they finally have the ball now through Xavier Tanner.
Now, what's the bet on Xavier Tanner running out here on screen as you look at it, out here to the the left of screen and on the ground to the right and trying to hook it through. Or
the banana kick, I think, isn't it?
Think?
Hook it is the right foot.
I think he might sneak out a little bit. No, he's going the set shot. There it is, the drop punt. And he might have kicked this. No, just offline and through 4-1 behind. But the Demons doing well. 10-12 to Carlton 5-7. So almost double their score at the moment. That's how well they're playing the young Demon side.
Yes, they have played exceptionally well, Peter. I thought that if Carlton could keep the pressure on, they'd crack. But, Carlton let them off the hook, and their skill around the ground. Also, they really did want to win this game of football.
Malin, half-back flank. Could this be his last game with Carlton? I think definitely. I would say definitely he will go back to South Australia next year. There's Peter Rode, who has not been a dominant player today as he has been in other finals. Oja flies from behind, no mark. Rodney Wright played a good steady game in defence. So is little Batterston. He's been a terrific player all day. Kicks it over towards Darryl Cox. Cox has done a good job on Warren Ralph. Ralph has kicked 2 goals only. Up towards centre wing the ball goes. Xavier Tanner used his great experience here. Now it's Mick Kennedy with a hand pass back towards Andrew Graham and the boundary line. Oh, the bounce favours Ellingworth, but now it's Kennedy. You can see it's fairly slippery on that wing there, as Hartney has been probably Carlton's best player today. Up towards centre wing, Tommy Alvin, probably their second best player. Onto the left foot he goes, up towards half forward, where the mark has been taken up there by Paul O'Brien.
It's been steady in defence, O'Brien. Swinging the ball back towards the members' stand from behind all day. Tapped it on to a teammate, close to the boundary line, and I think that's out. In fact, I know that's out. And
Crackers.
so Carlton to get the free.
There's Crackers Keenan in the red jacket there. He was almost going to go for that mark, Crackers. There he is, right in the left of camera there. Steve Phillips says that Crackers did his hamstring go for that mark. I wouldn't be surprised, actually. He's carrying a bit of weight.
O'Brien with a good tackle to take Robertson out over the boundary line. Robertson here thinks turns straight back into Dale Dixon. Malin swinging hard at it. The ball held to him and there'll be a bounce. So it's 10-12 to 5-7. A time check, nearly 11 minutes gone. The rain has eased off. I'd like to estimate the crowd at this stage, gentlemen.
Oh, boy.
Well, it's really not. It's actually
It's not full.
It is a disappointing crowd at this stage, Graham, because there are, as you're saying, a lot of gaps.
There's Peter Dean down towards half forward. John Finch, probably best man in the ground in the first half, hasn't had as much to do since half-time, but what he has had to do, he's done very, very safely and, as usual, very dependable player. Over the back of the pack, here's a chance for Frank Regolo, charging towards half-forward. Little Batterston goes in after it. See, look at the way he uses that body, still charged in. Beautifully done. Over to Withers, who got leg from behind. Play on, said the umpire, and still they let it go. Now umpire Russo will bounce.
I was always taught, Peter, I don't know whether it's a basic in football nowadays, obviously it's not, but Peter Dean flew from behind then. I was always taught if you're caught behind, try and punch the ball away. And what happens, the man in front is the first to recover, and Melbourne gained that advantage. It's on their forward line.
It's half forward line for Melbourne, as Don said. Withers gets it a little Batterston. Look at him again, Adrian Batterston. Oh, well done, Adrian, as he goes towards full forward. Wilson's got the front posse, nearly hooked it in one-handed. Now it's Hartney, and the ever-reliable Hartney forces the ball through for a behind to Melbourne. So Melbourne move on to 10-13, 73 to Carlton 5-7, 37. One more behind by Melbourne and they will be exactly double Carlton's score. Half forward line, Tommy Alvin, Kelly O'Donnell to Dale Dixon. Now it's to Peter Thorne. Thorne up towards the forward line. The marker's dropped up there by Neil Gagan. Hand pass to Mick Kennedy, who's going to run into trouble here, but he shrugs the tackle easily. Onto the left foot, up towards Phil Malin. Malin's dropped a sitter. Kelly O'Donnell, a beautiful hand pass to Mark Withers. He runs onto his left foot, onto half-forward flank, hooks it back towards full forward. Wilson a push in the back, and the umpire must have seen that one. Yes.
He was watching it.
Yes, he had to see that one. Anyone could have seen that one as he pushed in the man. He won't give the ball over Brian Wilson, so it'll be a 15-metre penalty.
The way the umpire was standing the mark, I thought he was going to give it to
He
Wilson.
was going to play the mark, did you? But he couldn't have missed that one. As we see Gagan towards centre wing. Up they go. Robertson. Now it's Ellingworth. Well done, Roger Ellingworth. Hand passes back over his head. Adrian Batterston still got control of the football. Cleverly knocks it on to Dale Dixon, who runs to the forward pocket, lines up the goal, stabs at it, and puts it through the wrong side of the post for only one behind. And now the scores are dead set double. Melbourne 10-14 to Carlton 5-7. So that's a decisive advantage to Melbourne.
Good shepherd down there too that time from Batterston. Put his body in to let his teammate go forward. Kick down in towards the goal square again, offline. And Melbourne at the moment applying tremendous pressure, and Carlton of course have cracked. Melbourne 10-15, Carlton 5-7, and coming onto the ground there was Warren McKenzie for Carlton, and Tossell also for Melbourne. No, he sat back down on the bench again. So both coaches ringing the changes in this Channel 7 Reserves Grand Final for 1984. Top mark. It's got to be paid.
I would have brought this player on a little bit
earlier. Yes, he was very impressive. Remember the last game? Last week.
Yeah, just for a little bit of mobility. Really well. He's got a little bit of height, and I thought I would have taken the chance.
Well, they had a lot of players down early, Don, and Ralph is making the lead now out towards the half-forward line against Cox. Well, good pressure being put on there by Cox. But in fairness to Warren Ralph, the ball hasn't been down there, the forward line, too often in the second half. There's a hand pass coming across there to Danny Hughes. Hughes has been a very solid, dependable player. As he gets it out, I'd play that, Mark. Yes, said umpire Morrow to Xavier Tanner on centre wing. 15 metres against Andrew Graham. Xavier Tanner started his senior career in 1976 with North Melbourne. As he gets it down towards the half-forward line where Brian Wilson had led a long way out from goal. Won't make the distance. He's looking for someone to chip into that hole in front of goal. There's a shocking-looking kick up towards the forward line. No mark there to Neil Gagan. He goes in after it, runs across the face of goal, kicks it out wide. Now Rode against Kelly O'Donnell. Let's see who can win out. Cleverly done by O'Donnell. Then really well done. Kicks it off the ground. Back it comes to Withers. Now it's half-forward line as we see Regalo get the ball right down towards... No, it wasn't Regalo. Regalo was the player who flew for the mark. As we see Gagan come away with the football. A long hand pass out there to Mark Williams. Williams from the back pocket hooks it back towards the half-forward line. That could be a free kick against Tommy Alvin. No, said the umpire, saying that the player was in possession. Now Alvin comes away with the football. A hand pass out towards Ricky Nixon. Nixon gets it back to Darren OJ. OJ from half back up towards centre half forward. Oh, that's a mark. Definite mark to Mick Kennedy at centre half forward, about 40 metres out from goal.
Actually, that was a courageous mark by Kennedy. It's a pity a few more Carlton players don't keep their eye on the ball. Tossell going on, Tossell coming on, and Frank Regolo off. One player that I have already mentioned, Peter, and I've just got to admire this young fellow, is Tommy Alvin. You've mentioned that he never gives up. He's got tremendous spirit, tremendous heart. I hope the kid really does kick on in football.
Well, there's the kick from Mick Kennedy, and he has put that one through for a badly needed goal, and that's his first of the game.
John and I had a problem. He wanted a family-size wagon with 6-cylinder engine, air conditioning, power steering, cloth seats, power antenna, roof rack, tailgate washer wiper. He wanted the lot. All I wanted was a real holiday. Then we discovered that the new Holden Commodore Vacationer with all these features would actually save us $800. So now he's got his new Vacationer and I've got the holiday I wanted.
17 minutes gone in the last term. Melbourne 10-15, Carlton 6-7. So it's 75-43. Melbourne with this grand final, I would think, sewn up, leading by 32 points. Almost a free kick. Could have been a free perhaps to Southby, but Howell takes it for the Blues. Kicks up to half forward. In front, good mark. And that was taken by Nixon to a player going past in Alvin, who boots up into the pocket. Hughes, and sees it safely over the boundary line, and there'll be a throw in. Forward pocket at the Jollymont end.
Well, Carlton stars in the other games have not played well today. Rode has been quiet. Warren McKenzie hasn't done much. Of course, Warren Ralph has only kicked 2 goals, and OJ
But you can't blame those players, Peter. It's the smaller players that get the ball to the bigger fellows, and the little fellows just haven't put in it all today. They're just not good enough.
No, I agree, but their star players certainly haven't fired. As Kenny Sheldon started off early and didn't do a lot. Phil Malin's been fairly quiet. So they haven't had a lot going for them today, Graham.
There's two, Malin and Sheldon, both senior grand final premiership players that you would have thought would have had a feast on a day like this against inexperienced players. But the Melbourne team, and I think team's probably the operative word, most of them have contributed at some stage. They knock away there from Hal so that he can't mark. It's loose out there on the outer side. That's Dixon, but he misses it and it goes to Alvin. He's had a ton of possessions today. Up towards half forward, Mackenzie. No, great mark to Fidge.
He's been a good player, John Fidge.
It's ironical, isn't it, those two players, Alvin and Fidge.
Yeah, I agree with you, Don.
Love to see the socks pulled up and the jumper tucked in.
Untidy looking players, that's for sure. Up towards
the ball a lot.
Peter Kenny went for the mark. Peter Dean's been a quiet player. Ogier gets it across to Shane Robertson. He runs to half forward, hooks it towards goals. Ricky Nixon ducks back. Could have given away a free kick there, but the umpire lets it go and the ball goes through for a behind to Carlton. So Melbourne 10-15, Carlton on 6-9. 75 plays 45, a difference of 5 goals. So, well, they cannot win the game from here, Carlton. Melbourne been far too good and far too strong, and a very well coached side by Ray Slug Jordan. Towards the half-back flank, Dale Dixon, one of the 3 ex-Assumption College boys playing in the team. The other 2 being Peter Tossell and Frank Regolo, the 3 of those playing for Melbourne.
You mentioned Ray Jordan, and he has another year of his contract to go. He was mentioned as coach of the Sydney Swans, and Melbourne have said to him they'd like to keep him for that next year of his contract. I think today just proves that that's a pretty good decision.
I heard a whisper before the game. There was a bit of a whisper going around that Don Scott might be approached to coach the Swans, but still, Collingwood job, of course, is available now. So, Scotty, you're still a chance. Half-back flank.
It's perennial discussion,
Kenny.
isn't it, Don?
Yes, well, he probably gets sick to death of it, but no doubt one day he'll be coaching a league side. We'd like to see it anyway, Don.
No, I don't. Listen, Peter, I don't do very much up on the farm, and my highlight is every 2 weeks coming down here to commentate with you. Why should I give away something to come down here and listen to you?
Ralph and Cox. Ralph's come up onto the ball. Cox has followed him up and just let him know that he was still with him and around. And the umpire just had a quick word to both of them to ask them to settle it down a little. So those two have been at it, I think, from the start of the game.
Well, probably the tactics worked. Ralph hasn't had a lot of opportunities, but I suppose those niggling tactics finally worked because he's got on top of Warren Ralph and has done a pretty good job. The conditions not easy today for
well, that's not true, actually, because Ralph was a very good player in the first quarter because Cox was trying to manhandle him, but he kept moving around. Then he stopped. Remember, he got that whack in the head in the pack, and he stopped running. And consequently, when you stop running, you fall into a fullback's hands.
Yeah, I don't think he's made really a decent lead that we know that Ralph can for 2.5 quarters.
Well, I'll tell you what, if Peter Hudson had have listened to Don Scott throughout his career, Don might have been able to make him into a good full forward, you know, Graham.
You would have kicked 1,000 goals if I'd coached you.
There's the kick from Graham coming down towards full forward. A pack of players fly for it. It's kicked out of defence there by the Melbourne defender. Alvin went in hard as usual. Bailey was a great player in the first half. Still on that half-forward line for the Carlton side, but they can't get through that strong Melbourne defence. The scoreboard, 10-15 Melbourne, Carlton 6-9. We've been playing almost 22 minutes, and just reminded to the viewers that North Melbourne won the under-19, 17-19 to Richmond's 7-11, a decisive win by the young North Melbourne side. Coached by Dennis Pagan, former North Melbourne player, back pocket player, good player too.
South
Dennis.
Melbourne.
Played with South for a while too.
Victoria, and started his career with Carlton. Would you remember?
That's right too. You are quite right. You're a wealth of
information. And when Ron
information,
Barassi took over, he said everybody under 6 foot out, and so Dennis went and went on his merry way.
Is that so, Don? Well, here's Boland from the back line, hooks it back to Allingworth, who braced himself, couldn't go, or gee, hurt himself, and he came down there. As we see Peter Thorne trying to give away the hand pass. He does. Batterston has been a great player today. Bounces the ball. Hand pass over the top. Beautiful football, Melbourne. Oh, the umpire got the player, Peter Tossell there. Oh, in the head.
Now that's not a free kick.
Well, I reckon it was.
Oh.
I reckon it was. In the head, the Brian Wilson against Pitt. You can't.
Well,
hit a
here it
bloke
is
in
on
the
replay.
head.
Look at it
Have
on
a look.
replay.
See if
He
he
won
hit him
his
in the head.
Why? Hip and
turn
shoulder.
up.
He put his head
A
down.
definite free kick.
Oh, you're unbelievable. You are.
You wouldn't pay that.
I wouldn't play it.
That
He hit
bloke
him
would
with
have
the
ended
hip.
up in hospital.
So what?
The idea is to grab the man in possession.
It
Don't
is
try and knock him
bump.
out,
Don't you know the hip and shoulder?
30 all.
Anyway, the free kick, the umpire's right. As we see Wilson.
Not necessarily right, but very hard to change his mind.
Goal to Brian Wilson, he's fourth.
Westpac makes managing your money a lot easier by giving you a one-card way to bank. For faster service in our branches, 24-hour access to handy banks right across Australia, and a handy way to pay for things you need and get your extra cash as well. A convenient way to shop or bank with just one card. You choose either a Westpac MasterCard or a Westpac card, because the card is the bank and the bank is Westpac.
If you took this summer's entire range of Farah coordinates and coordinated them, you'd have hundreds of different outfits. That's enough Farah coordinates for 117 barbecues.